The house was breathing, not metaphorically, not emotionally. It was physically breathing. Ethan noticed it the moment he stepped onto the rotten wooden porch. The air around the house rose and fell, slow and heavy, like the chest of a sleeping giant. The walls creaked in rhythm, and the windows fogged and cleared again, as if the building itself had lungs. "Tell me you feel that too," Ethan whispered. Behind him, Maya tightened her jacket and nodded. "Yeah, like the place is watching us breathe." The abandoned Blackwood house stood at the edge of the forest, miles away from the nearest road. No lights, no neighbors, no birds, not even insects dared to make noise here. Midnight had just passed when they arrived because, according to every local warning, nothing good ever happened here after 12. They should have listened. Ethan adjusted his camera. "This is it. One night inside. We document everything. Paranormal proof or nothing." Maya swallowed hard. "People disappeared here. People disappear everywhere," Ethan replied, forcing confidence. "Houses don't breathe." The front door inhaled. Wood stretched inward, groaning, then slowly exhaled as the door creaked open by itself. Maya grabbed Ethan's arm. "We didn't touch it." "I know." They stepped inside. The smell hit first damp earth, old blood, and something metallic. The hallway was long and narrow, with wallpaper peeling like shedding skin. Every step echoed twice, as if someone else was walking a second behind them. The door slammed shut. Maya screamed. Ethan spun around, heart racing. He rushed to the door and pulled. It didn't move. Locked. "No signal," Maya said, checking her phone. Her voice trembled. "No bars, no GPS." The house sighed. A deep, satisfied sound rolled through the walls. They moved deeper inside, their flashlight beams cutting through darkness that felt thick-sticky. Family portraits lined the walls, but every face had been scratched out, deep gouges, as if done by fingernails. One portrait remained untouched, a family of 4. The father looked disturbingly familiar. Ethan leaned closer. "That looks like me." Maya shook her head. "No, it looks like someone who wants to be you." A faint sound echoed. Upstairs, footsteps, slow, bare, wet. Someone or something was pacing above them. "Hello," Ethan called out. The footsteps stopped, then running. The sound rushed from one end of the house to the other. Too fast, too many steps, like dozens of feet pounding the ceiling at once. Lights flickered on. Every room was suddenly illuminated, and every room was occupied. People stood motionless inside the rooms. Men, women, children, all staring directly at Ethan and Maya. Their mouths were open, stretched unnaturally wide, as if screaming silently. Maya screamed for real. The lights went out again. Darkness swallowed them. A whisper brushed Ethan's ear. "You came back." "I've never been here," Ethan whispered. The voice laughed. "You always say that cold fingers wrapped around Maya's wrist." She screamed as something yanked her backward into the darkness. Her flashlight clattered to the floor. "Maya." Ethan chased her screams down the hallway, past doors that now slammed shut one by one, sealing him in. The house's breathing grew faster, panicked, hungry. He found Maya in the living room, collapsed on the floor, shaking. "It showed me things," she sobbed. "It showed me us, dying here." Over and over, Ethan helped her up. "We leave, now." The stairs appeared where the hallway had been, leading down. Basement. They hadn't seen a basement before. The house inhaled sharply, forcing them forward. The basement was vast, impossibly so. Stone walls dripped black liquid that pulsed like veins. In the center stood a massive, heart-fleshy, wet, beating slowly. Attached to it were bodies, hundreds, preserved, connected by thick cords that disappeared into their chests. Maya gagged. "The house, Pies, is alive," Ethan finished. One body opened its eyes. It was Ethan. "No," he whispered. The Ethan on the wall smiled. "You finally came home." Memories flooded Ethan's mind, visions of him moving into the house years ago. Dying, being absorbed, reborn outside. Memories erased, only to be drawn back again. The house didn't trap people. It recycled them. Maya screamed as cords shot out, wrapping round her ankles, dragging her toward the heart. Ethan grabbed her hand. "I won't let it take you." The heart pulsed faster. The house roared. Walls began to close in. Ethan made a choice. He let go. Maya screamed his name as the cords pulled her away. The house paused, confused. Ethan ran. The front door burst open, as if exhaling its last breath. He stumbled outside, gasping, collapsing onto the dirt. Silence. The house stood still. Dead, or so he thought. Police found Ethan wandering the road at dawn. Alone. Broken. Alive. They searched the house. Nothing was inside. No basement. No bodies. No heart. Months later, Ethan moved into a new apartment. On his first night, lying in bed, he felt it. The walls around him rose and fell, breathing. And somewhere behind him, Maya whispered, "You didn't really leave."
The platform clock struck 12:47 a.m. and stayed there. Rowan noticed at the moment he stepped onto platform 6, the second hand twitched as if trying to move forward, then snapped back into place with a faint clicking sound. The air here felt heavier than the rest of the station, thick with the smell of rust, oil, and something faintly sweet, like decay. He checked his phone again. "Dead, of course," he muttered, rubbing his face. The last bus had left, the taxis never showed, and every other platform was sealed with metal shutters. Platform 6 was the only one open, as if the station itself had decided where he belonged. Above him, the departure board flickered. 12:47 a.m. Last train destination. No city name, no route. A low sound rolled out of the tunnel. Not an engine, breathing, slow, mechanical, wet. The lights overhead flickered violently, plunging the platform into darkness before snapping back on. When they stabilized, the train was already there, black metal cars stretching endlessly into the tunnel, their surface streaked with something darker than oil. There were no windows, just one door sliding open with a shriek of tortured metal. Rohan's chest tightened. This isn't real. Behind him, the station lights went out completely. Every single one. The only light left spilled from the open train door. Something inside whispered his name. He stepped forward. The door slammed shut behind him with a force that rattled his bones. The train lurched into motion, not smoothly, but like a living thing waking up angry. Rowan stumbled, grabbing a metal pole to keep from falling. The car was full. Dozens of passengers sat in perfect rows, their bodies stiff, their faces pale. Men, women, children, some dressed in modern clothes, others in outfits decades old. None of them moved. None of them blinked. "Hello," Rohan's voice echoed, unnaturally loud. A man across the aisle slowly turned his head. His eyes were bloodshot, rimmed with black veins. "You shouldn't have boarded," the man said quietly. The train screeched as it accelerated, the sound piercing straight through Rohan's skull. He moved down the aisle, heart pounding, past passengers who stared straight ahead like mannequins. A woman suddenly grabbed his wrist. Her skin was ice cold. "I got on in 1998, she whispered. "It hasn't stopped since." Rowan yanked his arm free. "That's impossible." "We all said that," another voice murmured. The lights flickered. For a split second, Rowan saw scratches carved into the walls, thousands of tally marks, layered over one another, dug deep into the metal. The lights went out completely. Screams erupted not from mouths, but from the walls themselves. Faces pushed out from inside the metal, stretching it like rubber. Eyes bulged, mouths tore open soundlessly. Rowan ran. The train cars didn't end. One car was filled with mirrors. Every reflection showed a different version of him, older, broken, decomposing, hanging, screaming. Another car was lined with coffins stacked to the ceiling. Each one had a name carved into the lid. He found his. At the far end of the train stood the conductor. It wore a uniform stitched together from dozens of others. Its face had no eyes, only a wide, torn smile that never moved. "Ticket?" it asked. "I don't have one," Rowan shouted. The conductor tilted its head. "Then you pay another way." The train began to slow. Hope surged through Rohan's chest. A platform appeared outside the windows, identical to Platform 6. "Final stop." He gasped. The conductor laughed. "No, the door's open." The conductor shoved him forward. Rowan stumbled onto the platform as the door slammed shut behind him. The train vanished into the tunnel, its breathing fading away. The clock above him read 12:47 a.m. A confused young man stood nearby, checking his phone. The announcement echoed for the first time. "Last train boarding now." Rowan turned toward the glass wall. His reflection stared back, hollow eyes, pale skin, mouth open in a silent scream. The reflection smiled. He was already waiting.
The lights were still on. That alone made Daniel freeze at the edge of the parking lot. Riverside Memorial Hospital had been abandoned for over 20 years. A massive fire had swept through the upper floors, trapping patients in their beds and staff in the stairwells. Official reports called it an accident. Locals called it something else, a warning. Yet here it stood, 6 stories of cracked concrete and broken windows, glowing faintly in the rain-soaked darkness. Yellow lights flickered behind curtains that should have rotted away long ago. "This place should be dead," Emily whispered beside him. Daniel adjusted the camera strapped to his chest. "That's why we're here." Thunder rolled overhead as they crossed the empty lot. The wind carried a smell Daniel couldn't place, not smoke, not decay, but something sharp and clean, disinfectant. The automatic glass doors at the entrance were wide open. No chains, no boards, no warning signs, just silence. They stepped inside. The doors slid shut behind them with a mechanical hiss that echoed far too long. Emily spun around. "Did you hear that?" Daniel nodded. Inside, the hospital was spotless. The floors gleamed. The walls were freshly painted. Ceiling lights hummed softly above them, bathing the hallway in sterile white light. A nurse's station stood ahead, neatly organized. Clipboards were stacked perfectly. A half-empty coffee cup sat beside a computer monitor. Steam rose from it. "That coffee is hot," Emily said. "Daniel, someone's here." Before he could answer, footsteps echoed from down the corridor, slow, deliberate. A woman stepped into view, wearing pale blue scrubs. Her badge read Nurse Allison. Her hair was tied back neatly, and her shoes were spotless, no dust, no dirt. "Visiting hours are over," she said calmly. "Please return to your rooms." Daniel swallowed. "Ma'am," This hospital was closed in 2003. She smiled. Her lips moved. Her eyes didn't. No one ever leaves Riverside, she replied. The lights flickered. For a moment, Daniel saw something behind her burned walls, peeling paint, blackened ceilings. Then it vanished, replaced by clean white corridors again. Emily grabbed Daniel's arm. "We need to go." They turned back. The entrance hallway was gone. In its place stood a long corridor lined with patient rooms. Doors stretched endlessly in both directions, each one marked with a glowing room number. A call bell rang, somewhere close, then another and another. Soon the entire hallway echoed with ringing bells and distant coughing. A voice crackled over the intercom. Code blue in Ward C. Emily's breathing quickened. Damn. People died here. Code blue means I know, he said quietly. A gurney rolled past them on its own. Strapped to it was a man wrapped in burned hospital sheets. His chest rose and fell unnaturally fast. His eyes snapped open as he passed. "Help me," he rasped. The gurney vanished around the corner. Emily screamed. Doors began opening along the hallway. Inside each room lay a patient. Some were burned black. Some were missing limbs. Some had melted faces, frozen in silent agony. Yet all of them were alive, moaning, twitching, breathing. A doctor stepped out of one room, his white coat stained dark red. His face was half burned, skin pulled tight over exposed teeth. "They don't die here," he said gently. "We don't allow it." Daniel backed away. "This isn't possible." The doctor tilted his head. Neither was the fire. The lights went out. Emergency lights snapped on, bathing the hallway in deep red. The walls began to drip. Not water, blood. It slid down in thick streams, pooling at their feet. The call bells rang louder, turning into screams. The patients began crawling out of their rooms, dragging burned bodies across the floor. Emily collapsed to her knees. "Make it stop." A hand grabbed Daniel's shoulder. Nurse Allison stood behind him. "You shouldn't run," she whispered. "It only makes the treatment worse." Her face peeled away like wet paper. Beneath it was burned flesh and empty eye sockets. Daniel shoved her and ran. He pulled Emily to her feet, sprinting through hallways that twisted and reshaped themselves. Exit signs pointed in opposite directions. Stairwells led upward forever, or downward into darkness that breathed back at them. They burst into an operating room. A massive figure lay on the table beneath surgical lights. Daniel froze. It was him. Burned tubes forced into his throat, chest stitched open. Emily screamed. "That's you." The intercom crackled again. "Patient Daniel Carter. Time of death. Denied." The doors slammed shut. Metal restraints snapped around Daniel's wrists and ankles, slamming him onto the table. Cold instruments hovered above him, moving on their own. Emily pounded on the doors. "Stop, please." Nurse Allison appeared beside her. "You can stay," she said kindly, "or you can leave." Emily sobbed. "If I leave, what happens to him?" Allison smiled. "He lives forever." Emily hesitated. Then she ran. The hospital screamed. Daniel thrashed as scalpels cut into his skin. Pain exploded through his body, but he didn't die. Minutes passed. Hours. Days. He screamed until his voice was gone. Then, suddenly, darkness. Daniel gasped and sat up. He was lying on wet asphalt. Rain poured down. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police stood nearby, staring at Riverside Memorial Hospital. "Sir," an officer said slowly, "we found you wandering the road. Are you hurt?" Daniel looked at the hospital. It was dark, abandoned, collapsed. "No," Daniel whispered. "Emily. Where's Emily?" The officer exchanged a look with his partner. "You were alone." Months later, Daniel returned to his apartment. At night, he hears call bells ringing. Sometimes he smells disinfectant. Sometimes, when the lights flicker, he sees a nurse standing in the corner, smiling patiently, waiting. Because at Riverside Memorial Hospital, no one ever dies. Story 4. The motel where the rooms remember. The vacancy sign flickered like it was struggling to stay alive. Viación. CY. Then it went dark. Jake slowed his car on the empty desert highway, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. His GPS had died an hour ago. No signal, no radio, just static and the endless stretch of road cutting through the Nevada desert like a scar. Beside him, Laura slept uneasily, her head resting against the window. She mumbled something in her sleep, his name. Maybe. The motel appeared suddenly, rising out of the darkness as if it had been waiting. A single-story building, crooked doors, curtains hanging like torn skin. The sign out front read, "Sundown Motel." Jake swallowed. "We'll stay one night." The parking lot was empty. No cars, no sounds. Even the wind seemed to avoid the place. Laura woke as the engine shut off. "Where are we?" "Some motel," Jake said, forcing calm. "Just until morning." The office door creaked open before they reached it. A man stood inside, tall and thin, wearing a faded uniform. His eyes were too reflective, catching the light like an animal's. "Room?" he asked. "Yes," Laura replied quickly. The man slid a rusted key across the counter. "Room 6. Jake glanced at the logbook. The last entry was dated 1987. "No one else staying here?" Jake asked. The man smiled without warmth. "They all stay, just not long." Room 6 was at the far end of the motel, isolated from the rest. The door opened easily, too easily, as if it had been unlocked already. Inside, the room smelled faintly of dust and copper. The furniture was old but intact. A mirror hung above the dresser. The bedspread was floral, stained darker in places. Laura froze. "Jake, is that blood?" "It's rust," he said quickly, too quickly. They unpacked in silence. That night, Jake woke to a sound. Breathing, not Laura's. It came from the bathroom, slow, shallow, struggling. He sat up, heart pounding. "Hello." The bathroom light flicked on by itself. In the mirror, Jake saw a man standing behind him, burned, bloody, mouth open in a silent scream. Jake spun around. Nothing. Laura bolted upright. I heard it too. The walls creaked, settling or remembering. The TV snapped on. Static filled the room, then shifted into grainy black and white footage. Room 6. the same bed, a couple arguing. The man on screen shouted. The woman cried. Then he raised a knife. Laura screamed as the screen went black. The TV shut off. Jake backed toward the door. We're leaving. The handle wouldn't turn. The walls began to whisper. Fragments of voices layered over one another. Bye. Didn't mean to. Please don't. It hurts. Laura collapsed, clutching her head. They died here. They all died here. The mirror cracked. Inside it, Laura saw herself lying on the bed, throat cut, eyes open and empty. She screamed. The bathroom door slammed open. The man from the mirror stepped out, dragging his own corpse behind him. You took my room, he whispered. The walls pulsed. The bedsheets tightened like restraints. Jake felt hands grab his ankles, pulling him toward the bed. Faces emerged from the walls, imprinted into the plaster, screaming silently. Remember us, they begged. The room shook violently. Suddenly silence. Jake gasped and found himself lying on the desert road. Morning sun burned his eyes. Police cars surrounded the sundown motel. An officer knelt beside him. Sir, are you injured? Jake sat up. Laura, where's Laura? The officer's expression darkened. We found a body in room 6. Female. Looks like she's been there a long time. No, Jake whispered. We were just there. The motel behind them collapsed into dust as the wind blew through it. There was nothing left that night. Jake checked into a hotel miles away. When he entered the room, the TV turned on by itself, static. Then, a familiar voice whispered from the walls, "You're staying with us now." The door locked. The town of Hollow Creek didn't appear on most maps. That should have been Daniel's first warning. The road narrowed as he drove deeper into the woods, headlights cutting through heavy fog that clung to the trees like damp breath. His GPS flickered, recalculated, then went blank. No signal, he muttered. The radio crackled to life on its own. A choir hummed softly off-key, distorted before dissolving into static. Then he saw it. A white wooden church standing alone at the edge of the road, its steeple piercing the fog. The sign out front swung slowly in the wind. Hollow Creek Chapel, all sins welcome. Daniel pulled over. He hadn't planned to stop. He was just tired, exhausted from the long drive and the weight he carried one. He hadn't confessed to anyone. Light glowed from the church windows, warm, inviting. The front door creaked open before he reached it. Inside, the air smelled of old wood and candle wax. Pews lined the room, polished and clean. Candles burned along the walls, though no one tended them. At the altar stood a priest. P was tall, thin, his face half hidden in shadow. "Welcome," the priest said gently. "You look burdened." Daniel swallowed. "I didn't mean to intrude." "No one intrudes here," the priest replied. "They arrive when they're ready." Daniel hesitated. "Is there somewhere I can rest?" The priest smiled. "Confession brings rest." The confessional booth stood to the side, dark wood, its curtain slightly open. Daniel felt a strange pull toward it, like gravity shifting inside his chest. "I'm not religious," Daniel said. "That's never mattered," the priest answered. Against his better judgment, Daniel stepped into the booth. The curtain slid shut. Darkness enveloped him, broken only by the faint glow through the lattice. "Speak," the priest said softly from the other side. "The chapel listens." Daniel laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous." Silence. Then a whisper, not the priest's voice, his own. "Tell them what you did." Daniel's throat tightened. I was driving," he said slowly. "Late at night. Rain. I didn't see her." The booth creaked as if settling closer. "I hit a woman," Daniel whispered. "She fell into the road. She was still alive." The whisper returned closer now. "And then I panicked," Daniel said, tears burning his eyes. "I drove away." The candlelight flickered violently. From the walls of the booth came faint scratching sounds, like fingernails against wood. "You left her to die," the priest said calmly. Daniel nodded. "Yes." The booth shook. A wet, choking sound echoed inside someone gasping for air. Daniel slammed his hand against the curtain. "Stop." The curtain slid open. The priest was gone. Instead, a woman stood there, broken, bloody, her legs twisted unnaturally. Her face was pale, but her eyes were wide open. "Why didn't you help me?" she whispered. Daniel screamed and stumbled backward, falling out of the booth. The church had changed. The pews were cracked and warped. The walls were blackened, as if scorched. Burned hymn books littered the floor. The altar was gone. In its place stood a massive wooden cross stained dark with dried blood. Voices filled the air. Confessions, hundreds of them. Layered whispers spilling from the walls. "I cheated. I watched him die. I buried her there." Daniel covered his ears. "This isn't real." The front doors slammed shut. The priest's voice echoed from everywhere. "The chapel remembers every sin ever confessed." Figures began emerging from the pews, transparent at first, then solidifying. Men with blood-soaked hands, women with hollow eyes, children clutching invisible wounds. They all turned toward Daniel. "You heard us," one whispered. "Now we hear you." The floorboards split open. Hands reached up, grabbing Daniel's ankles, pulling him toward the altar. He crawled, fingers bleeding, toward the doors. The cross behind him cracked. A body fell from it. His body. Daniel stared in horror as his double hung there, chest crushed, eyes lifeless. "You confessed," the priest said, appearing beside him once more. "Now you belong." "No," Daniel sobbed. "Please." The priest leaned close. "The church doesn't forgive." The lights went out. Daniel woke up on the side of the road, choking on fog. Morning sunlight filtered through the trees. His car was parked nearby. The church was gone. No sign, no building, no road leading to it. Shaking, Daniel drove until he reached the nearest town and turned himself in. He confessed everything. They listened. They searched. They found nothing. No body, no evidence, no missing person. Daniel was released. That night, alone in his apartment, Daniel heard it. A familiar creak. The sound of a curtain sliding shut. A whisper from the darkness. "Confess." The walls around him leaned closer, listening. Have you ever heard a story that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up? One that makes you check the locks on your doors twice? Well, get ready, because today we're diving into a tale that's as chilling as it is baffling. The story of the cabin where footprints appear from nowhere, deep in a remote, snowy forest, far from any town, stands a simple wooden cabin. It was built by a hunter named Silas back in the day, a place for him to escape the noise of the world. After he passed, his family kept it, visiting a few times a year. They always made sure to lock it up tight before leaving, bolting the door and shuttering the windows. The nearest neighbor is miles away, and the path to the cabin is barely visible, especially in winter. Our story begins one harsh winter. Silas's grandson, Leo, decided to check on the old place. He and a friend, Mark, drove as far as they could and then hiked the rest of the way through knee-deep snow. When they finally reached the clearing, the cabin looked just as it always did, peaceful and untouched, blanketed in a thick layer of fresh snow. There were no tracks around it, except for their own. It was a perfect, undisturbed winter scene. Leo pulled out the old iron key, unlocked the heavy wooden door, and pushed it open. The air inside was freezing, still and silent. But as their eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through the dusty windows, they saw something that made them freeze. There, on the dusty wooden floor, was a single set of wet footprints. They led from the center of the main room, right by the cold, unused fireplace, and ended abruptly in front of the locked back door. Leo and Mark were stunned. They checked every inch of the cabin. The windows were all latched shut from the inside, covered in cobwebs. The back door was bolted, also from the inside. There was no cellar, no attic hatch, no loose floorboards. The chimney was narrow and capped. There was absolutely no way anyone could have gotten in or out. And yet there were the footprints, clear as day. They looked fresh, as if someone had just walked there, melting snow dripping from their boots. But who and how? They couldn't explain it. They swept the floor, erasing the mysterious tracks, trying to erase the unsettling feeling that came with them. They double-checked all the locks, secured the cabin even tighter than before, and hiked back to their car. The image of those footprints burned into their minds. A month later, curiosity got the better of them. They had to go back. This time, they brought a camera. The journey was the same: a long drive, a difficult hike, and the sight of the cabin, once again isolated and seemingly untouched, with a fresh layer of snow confirming no one had been near it. With a mix of dread and anticipation, Leo unlocked the door, and there they were again. A new set of wet footprints. This time they started near one of the shuttered windows and walked a short path towards the main table before vanishing completely. They were the tracks of heavy boots, just like before. It was impossible. The snow outside the window was pristine. The lock was secure. Every entry point was sealed. They felt like they were in a ghost story, but this felt all too real. Over the next few years, this became a bizarre ritual for Leo and his family. Every time they'd visit the cabin after a long absence, especially in winter, they'd find them. New footprints. Sometimes it was a single line of tracks. Another time, It looked as if someone had paced back and forth in front of the fireplace. Once they found a small, child-sized footprint next to a larger one, which was even more disturbing. They set up trail cameras outside, but the footage only ever showed deer, foxes, and falling snow. No people, never any people. The family started researching the history of the land. They talked to old-timers in the nearest town, dug through local archives, looking for any clue. And that's when they found it, a forgotten piece of local history, a story from over a century ago, long before Silas built his cabin. Apparently, a family of settlers had lived on that very piece of land, a father, a mother, and their young son. One brutal winter, the father went out to hunt for food and got caught in a sudden, violent blizzard. He never returned. His wife, worried sick, went out to look for him, leaving their young son alone in their small, primitive shelter, telling him to stay inside where it was safe. But she, too, was lost to the storm. The little boy waited. He waited for days, alone in the freezing cabin, pacing the floor, staring at the door, hoping to see his parents walk through it. According to the legend, when a rescue party from a nearby settlement finally reached the area weeks later, they found the bodies of the parents frozen in the snow. But the boy and the original shelter were gone without a trace. It was as if they had just vanished from the earth. All that was left were his tiny, frantic footprints inside their ruined home. Suddenly, the footprints in Silas's cabin took on a whole new, tragic meaning. Were these the spectral echoes of that lost family? Was it the father, forever returning to a home that was no longer there? Was it the mother, searching for the child she left behind? Or was it the little boy, still pacing, still waiting for his parents to come home after all these years? The family never found a definitive answer. The cabin still stands, and the footprints still appear. They are a silent, chilling reminder of a family torn apart by a winter storm, their story imprinted on the very land they once called home. It's a story with no resolution, a mystery that remains as cold and deep as the winter snow that surrounds the lonely cabin. What do you think is happening here? Is it a paranormal event, a trick of the mind, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. It's stories like these that remind us that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but simply to be told. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this spooky tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more mysteries. Stay curious, and see you next time. The elevator shouldn't have gone past level 6. Ethan was certain of that. He had parked on B3's same level he always used after late shifts at the office downtown. The underground garage beneath the building wasn't big. 6 levels at most. Concrete, fluorescent lights. Nothing unusual. Yet the digital display above the elevator doors blinked. B7. The doors stayed closed. Ethan frowned and pressed the button again. Nothing happened. The elevator continued descending. B8, B9, a low hum vibrated through the metal walls, deeper than before, like something resonating far below. The lights flickered, briefly revealing scratches carved into the stainless steel names. Dates, symbols layered over one another like frantic confessions. "Okay," Ethan muttered. "Very funny." He slammed the emergency stop. Nothing. The air inside the elevator grew colder. The hum deepened, turning into a slow, rhythmic thudding, like a heartbeat. The display changed again. B12. The elevator jolted violently and came to a stop. The doors slid open. Ethan stared out into darkness. This wasn't a parking level. The ceiling was too high. The lights were dim, flickering weakly, casting long, distorted shadows across rows of concrete pillars that stretched farther than he could see. The floor sloped slightly downward, disappearing into blackness. No cars, no painted lines, just empty space. "Hello," Ethan called. His voice echoed again, as if the garage itself were repeating it back imperfectly. The elevator dinged. The doors began to close. Ethan panicked and stepped out just as they slid shut behind him. The elevator immediately began ascending. "Wait!" Ethan shouted, pounding on the doors. The display climbed rapidly. B11, B1, OB9, then silence. The elevator was gone. Ethan stood alone. The lights flickered overhead, some buzzing loudly, others completely dead. The smell hit him next oil, damp concrete, and something faintly metallic. Blood. He pulled out his phone. No signal. The flashlight turned on. That was something. He started walking, footsteps echoing loudly in the vast space. Each step seemed to sink slightly into the concrete, as if the floor weren't quite solid. A sign appeared ahead. Level B12. Beneath it, scratched deeply into the wall, were words written in dozens of different handwritings. "Don't go down." Ethan's stomach twisted. "I'm already down," he whispered. A sound echoed behind him. Footsteps. Not his. He spun around, flashlight sweeping the darkness. Empty. Then a car horn blared. Loud. Sudden. Right behind him. Ethan screamed and stumbled forward, heart racing. The horn cut off abruptly, leaving ringing silence behind. A car appeared under one of the lights. A black sedan. Engine running. Headlights on. Relief surged through him. "Hey, thank God." He rushed toward it. The driver's door was open. Inside sat a man gripping the steering wheel tightly. His face was pale, eyes wide, sweat pouring down his temples. "You need to leave," the man whispered without looking at him. "Do you know how to get out?" Ethan asked. The man, laughter, broken, hysterical sound. "I've been driving down for 3 days. Ethan frowned. "That's impossible." The man finally turned. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging. "Every ramp goes down. Every turn takes you deeper. It doesn't let you go up." The car's engine suddenly revved violently. The headlights flared. The car shot forward straight into a concrete pillar. Metal crumpled. Glass exploded. The car was instantly silent. When the dust settled, the driver was gone. The seat was empty. Ethan staggered back. The lights dimmed further. A loudspeaker crackled to life overhead. "Parking validation required." The voice was distorted, layered with static and something else beneath it, like many voices trying to speak at once. Ethan backed away, pulse pounding. He found a ramp leading upward. Hope flared. He ran. The ramp sloped gently, spiraling up, and he emerged onto another identical level. Level B13. Cars were parked here, dozens of them, all covered in dust, all empty. Ethan passed one and froze. Inside, through the driver's side window, he saw himself sitting behind the wheel. Same clothes, same face. The other Ethan slowly turned his head and smiled. Ethan ran. The garage stretched endlessly, levels bleeding into one another. B14, B15, B16, each one darker than the last. The air grew thicker, harder to breathe. Whispers seeped from the concrete. Forgot to validate. Missed the exit. Just one more level. Ethan collapsed beside a pillar, gasping for air. Something moved in the darkness between the cars. Tall, too tall. Its footsteps were heavy, deliberate, echoing like collapsing structures. The lights ahead snapped off one by one, plunging the garage into near-total darkness. The thing stepped into the light. It looked like a security guard, sort of. Its uniform was fused to its body, skin stretched tight over bones that bent the wrong way. Its face was smooth concrete, with only a wide, hollow smile carved into it. It raised an arm. A ticket machine grew out of its hand, spitting out endless parking stubs. Time exceeded, it said. Ethan screamed and ran. He didn't know how long. He ran minutes, hours, days. Time meant nothing down here. His legs burned. His lungs screamed. Finally, he saw light, an exit ramp, real sunlight. He sobbed with relief and sprinted upward. The ramp opened into level B3. His car sat exactly where he'd parked it. The garage looked normal, clean, quiet. Ethan laughed hysterically, stumbling into his car and slamming the door shut. He started the engine and drove up the ramp. Fresh air, streetlights, freedom. At home, Ethan collapsed into bed, shaking. Morning came. His phone buzzed. A parking alert notification. Vehicle located on level B17. Ethan's blood ran cold. He checked his keys. They were gone. Far below the city, the elevator display flickered. B18. The garage made room. The phone rang at exactly 2:17 a.m. Not a second earlier, not a second late. Maya had just finished her third cup of stale coffee when the red light on her console blinked to life. The call center floor was nearly empty rows of cubicles stretching into darkness, broken only by the hum of fluorescent lights and the soft whir of old computers. Midnight support services, she said automatically. How may I assist you? Silence. She checked the call ID. No. Maya. Try again. Breathing crackled through the headset. Slow, wet, labored. Maya straightened. Sir, if you can hear me, please respond. A voice finally whispered, distorted and faint. I can't feel my legs. Maya's fingers froze over the keyboard. Okay, I'm here to help you. Where are you calling from? A long pause. Then, under the water, Maya swallowed. Sir, is this an emergency? The line went dead. Maya exhaled sharply. creep. She logged the call as a prank. The phone rang again. 2:17 a.m. Another red light blinked. She frowned. The system shouldn't allow back-to-back calls from blocked numbers. Midnight support services, she said, her voice tighter this time. A woman sobbed on the other end. They won't stop knocking, the woman whispered. Maya glanced around. The rest of the floor was empty. Her supervisor had gone home hours ago. Ma'am, who won't stop knocking? The sobbing turned into quiet laughter. The walls, the woman said. They knock from the inside. The call cut out. Maya pulled off her headset, heart pounding. She stood up, scanning the rows of cubicles. Empty. She sat back down. The phone rang again. 2:17 a.m. Her hands shook as she answered. Please, a child's voice whispered. Tell my mum I'm sorry. Maya's throat tightened. What's your name? Evan. And your last name? The line crackled. Don't hang up, Evan pleaded. They get louder when you hang up. A sound echoed through the headset. Knocking. Soft, hollow. Maya ripped the headset off and stood up, heart racing. The knocking continued. From the walls behind her, she spun around. The cubicle walls were vibrating, gently, rhythmically, like something tapping from the inside. No, Maya whispered. The phones across the floor rang all at once. Every console lit up red. 2:17 a.m. flashed on every screen. Against her will, Maya put the headset back on. Voices flooded her ears, crying, screaming, begging. I'm still burning. They buried me too shallow. I can hear them walking above me. Maya tore the headset off again and ran toward the exit. The door wouldn't open. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the floor in dim red light. The computers turned on by themselves. Old call logs filled the screens, dates going back decades, all marked resolved. Maya backed away, shaking. A figure sat down in the cubicle across from her. A man in a headset. His skin was gray, waterlogged, seaweed tangled in his hair. You're good at listening, he said calmly. That's why they chose you. Who are you? Maya whispered. A caller, he replied. From a long time ago. More figures appeared at every cubicle. Men, women, children burned, crushed, drowned, broken, all wearing headsets, all staring at her. The line never closes, the drowned man continued. Someone always has to answer. The knocking grew louder. The walls began to bulge inward, stretching like skin. Maya screamed and slammed her hands against the glass of her cubicle. I don't work here anymore, she sobbed. The drowned man smiled sadly. Neither do we. The floor shook. The walls split open. Hands burst through charred. Skeletal, swollen, grabbing, clawing, reaching. The phones rang louder, merging into a single deafening scream. Maya fell to her knees, clutching her head. I'll listen, she cried. I'll answer. The noise stopped instantly. Silent. The walls settled. The figures faded away. Maya was alone. The phone rang. 2:17 a.m. Her hands moved on their own. She put on the headset. Midnight support services, she said quietly. How may I assist you? A familiar voice whispered back. Maya, Can you hear me?" Her blood ran cold. It was her own voice. "I'm trapped," it said. "Please don't hang up." Maya stared at the dark screen in front of her. The call timer began counting upward. It never stopped. The night shift at Red Line Storage was supposed to be easy. That's what Tom told himself as he locked the front gate at 11 p.m. The metal bars clanging loudly in the otherwise silent industrial district. 8 hours alone. A few security rounds, maybe a couple of raccoons setting off motion sensors. Nothing else ever happened here. At least, nothing they talked about. Tom zipped his jacket tighter and stepped into the narrow corridor between storage units. Rows of rust-colored metal doors stretched endlessly in both directions, lit by flickering fluorescent lights mounted too far apart. The air smelled faintly of dust and something damp. He checked his clipboard. Unit 31B. Motion alert. Unit 47A. Sound complaint after hours. Tom frowned. Sound complaint. From who? There were no residents nearby. No one should have been inside. He grabbed his flashlight and started walking. Halfway down the corridor, he stopped. He heard breathing. Not his. Slow, rhythmic, heavy. It echoed faintly, as if coming from far away. But no matter how he moved, the sound stayed the same distance from him. Tom laughed nervously. Very funny. The breathing continued. He reached Unit 31B. The metal door was slightly dented outward, as if something inside had pressed against it. The padlock was cold to the touch. Tom leaned closer. The breathing was louder here. The door moved, just a little, like a chest rising. Tom stepped back. Nope. He marked it on the clipboard and hurried on. The corridor lights flickered, plunging the units into darkness before buzzing back to life. When they did, Tom realized something was wrong. The numbers on the units had changed. He was standing in front of Unit 88C. He turned around. The corridor behind him stretched far longer than it should have. The numbers climbing higher and higher the farther they went. "Okay," Tom whispered. "That's not possible." A metal door slammed shut behind him. He jumped, spinning around. Nothing there, but the breathing was louder now. It came from everywhere. From inside the walls, from beneath the concrete, from inside the units. Tom ran. His footsteps echoed strangely, as if the space were expanding with every step. He passed units with doors bulging outward, metal flexing with each breath from within. One door rattled violently. A voice whispered through the crack. "Don't open it." Tom stopped. "Who's there?" he called. A hand slid through the narrow gap-skin pale. Fingers bent at unnatural angles. "We tried to leave," the voice said. It didn't like that. The hand was yanked back inside. The door slammed flat again. Tom backed away, shaking. He turned a corner and slammed into something solid. A man stood there, or what used to be a man. He wore a Red Line Storage uniform, stained dark with old sweat and rust. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken deep into their sockets. "You shouldn't be here," the man said calmly. Tom stared. "Who are you?" The man smiled sadly. "I was night security. Before you," Tom's blood went cold. "Before me, what happened to you?" The man glanced toward the rows of units. They needed space. A scream erupted from somewhere deep in the facility. Metal doors began to shake violently, rattling in unison. The breathing turned frantic, panicked. The lights went out. 5 emergency lights flickered on, bathing the corridors in red. The numbers on the units began to peel away, revealing words carved into the metal beneath. Living, not living, almost empty. Tom stumbled backward. This is a dream. The former guard shook his head. This is storage. Things get kept here. A nearby door burst open. Inside was a small room far, larger than the unit should have been. Flesh-colored walls pulsed slowly. Veins ran across them like cables. Something massive shifted in the darkness beyond. It's the building, the guard whispered. It's hollow, and it fills itself. A wet sound echoed. The walls of the unit contracted. Tom screamed as a body slid out onto the floor. It was a woman. Her chest rose and fell weakly. She's still alive, Tom shouted. The guard nodded. For now, the woman's eyes opened. She looked straight at Tom. It hurts to be stalled. The floor trembled. Doors began opening all around them. Inside each unit were people, some alive, some dead, some in between, packed tightly, pressed into the breathing walls like items on shelves. The breathing reached a deafening volume. The building inhaled deeply. Tom ran. He didn't know where he was going, only away. Corridors twisted, turning in on themselves. Exit signs pointed in opposite directions. Finally, he saw the front gate. Moonlight spilled through the bars. Freedom. Tom sprinted, slamming into the gate and rattling it violently. Locked. The former guard appeared beside him. "You can't leave empty," he said. The ground beneath Tom's feet softened. He looked down in horror as the concrete rippled like skin. Hands pushed up from below, gripping his legs. "No!" Tom screamed. The hands pulled him down, the floor swallowing him slowly, lovingly. The last thing Tom heard was the building exhaling, satisfied. Morning came. The day manager unlocked the gate and stepped inside. "Tom," he called. No response. He noticed a new clipboard on the desk. Unit 112F occupied. Somewhere deep inside the facility, a metal door rose and fell slowly. Breathing. Briarwood Lane looked like any other slice of suburban paradise. White picket fences, perfectly manicured lawns, and neighbors who always greeted you with a smile. But paradise had a secret. It started with the Millers in number 12. A new door appeared in their hallway overnight. It wasn't on any of their blueprints. It was made of a dark, unfamiliar wood, with no handle or keyhole, just a smooth, cold surface. Mr. Miller, a practical man, tried to pry it open. He used crowbars, drills, even a sledgehammer. The door didn't even scratch. His wife, Sarah, felt a strange pull towards it. She'd stand before it for hours, her hand hovering just above the wood, as if she could feel something humming on the other side. She started having nightmares, whispers, in a language she didn't understand, calling her name. A week later, the Millers vanished. The police found their front door wide open, breakfast still on the table. The only thing out of place was that strange door in the hallway, now slightly ajar, revealing nothing but impenetrable darkness. Then it happened at number 8, the Hendersons' house. An identical door appeared in their basement. Young Timmy Henderson told his parents he heard music coming from it, like an old-fashioned lullaby. His parents, spooked by the miller's disappearance, forbade him from going near it. But the music grew louder, weaving its way through the house, a sweet, hypnotic melody that promised wonderful dreams. One morning, the Hendersons were gone too. Their door in the dusty basement was also left cracked open. Panic began to ripple through Briarwood Lane. It became a morbid lottery. Whose house would be next? People started sleeping with the lights on, barricading their hallways. But it was no use. The doors appeared wherever they pleased. In a child's bedroom, in a pantry, behind a shower curtain. Always the same dark wood, always handleless, always silent until it wasn't. I live at number 4. My name is Alex, and my door appeared 3 days ago at the end of my upstairs hallway. At first, I was terrified. I boarded it up, piling furniture against it. I covered it with blankets, trying to muffle the sounds I was sure I was imagining. But the whispers started. They weren't scary, not at first. They sounded like my mother, who passed away years ago. She was telling me how much she missed me, how she had something wonderful to show me if I would just open the door. I knew it was a trick. I'd seen what happened to my neighbors. I saw the moving trucks, the for sale signs that no one ever responded to. Briarwood Lane was becoming a ghost town, haunted by these wooden gateways. Yesterday, the whispers changed. They stopped being sweet and started to promise things. They knew my deepest desires: a successful career, the love I'd lost, a second chance at life. The voice promised it all, waiting for me just on the other side. It showed me images in my mind, flickering scenes of happiness, so vivid I could almost taste them. The temptation was agonizing. A part of me, a desperate, lonely part, wanted to believe it. I haven't slept in 72 hours. The wood of the door seems to pulse with a faint, dark light now, and the whispers have become a constant chorus in my head. I'm writing this all down, documenting it, because I think I'm losing the fight. The rational part of my brain is screaming at me to run, to leave this house and never look back. But my feet feel like lead. My gaze keeps drifting back to the door. It's strange. The fear is still there, but it's being overshadowed by an intense curiosity, a powerful magnetic pull. What is on the other side? Is it a monster? Is it oblivion? Or is it, somehow, everything I've ever wanted? The handleless surface now has a faint outline, a small, square panel right in the middle. It wasn't there before. It looks like a handprint, as if it's inviting me to place my palm against it. The whispers are louder now, urgent. Just a touch, Alex. That's all it takes. See for yourself. We're waiting for you. You can be with us forever. I can feel the floorboards vibrating beneath my feet. A low hum is emanating from the door, a sound that resonates deep in my chest. It feels like a heartbeat, a very, very old heartbeat. My hand is shaking as I raise it. I know I shouldn't. I know this is the end. But the promise of an end to the loneliness, the what if, it's almost too much to resist. I'm going to post this online. If anyone finds this, stay away from Briarwood Lane. Don't buy a house here. Don't even drive down this street. Whatever these doors are, they feed on hope. They feed on us. They're not just doors, they're mouths, and they are very, very hungry. My hand is so close now. The wood feels warm. It smells like damp earth and old memories. The whispering has stopped. Now, it's just a single, clear voice. It sounds just like my own. Welcome home.